The lore of Destiny actually dates back well past what most people are aware of, but the catalyst that kicked off the events most players actually know about in-game is the arrival of the Traveler. You see, before the Traveler, humanity in Destiny is in what was known as the pre-Golden Age. We were stuck on our home planet of Earth with many wars, overpopulation, and climate issues becoming major problems. There were many space missions going on at the time, but nothing more significant than what we would see in our modern day lives. It was around this time, though, that humanity noticed a strange object at the edge of our solar system, codenamed Planet X, which traveled between different planets and started to terraform them. Eventually, this Planet X found its way to our neighboring Mars and started to terraform the planet as well, causing massive rainstorms to erupt and life to grow on an otherwise barren rock. This massive sphere was kept a mystery under top-secret government programs, where it was now being referred to as the Traveler, but eventually made itself known to humanity and helped us to advance our technology thousands of years forward in an instant, building massive megacities in no time with nanotechnology and constructing spaceships like never before seen to travel the stars. This thrust humanity into what was referred to as the Golden Age, where we conquered new planets, built sprawling cities across our solar system, and started to delve into insanely complex and interesting research work for our future of our species. Sadly though, this era didn't last forever, as unbeknownst to humanity, the Traveler actually had an enemy simply referred to as the Darkness, which was making its way towards us. And in one last gambit, in order to save humanity from the darkness that began swallowing everything whole at the edge of the solar system, the Traveler retreated back to Earth and initiated some unknown protocol that banished the darkness away, but also left the Traveler dormant and now unavailable to aid humanity. This event also caused massive blackouts and famines across the solar system, with many cities immediately being thrust into nuclear winters, where humanity now had to form tribes to survive in the wilderness. It was at this time as well that the ghosts began to emerge from the Traveler and revive dead humans that had perished. These humans were given the powers of the light itself from the Traveler, the same light that had beaten the darkness, and these revived humans were known as the Guardians, the same Guardians we play as in-game. But you see, the most interesting thing about the Traveler is just how little we actually know, because to this day in Destiny, it still isn't even clear what the darkness was and is, and what exactly the light, or power the Traveler is harnessed is as well. Why did the Traveler come to our planet in the first place? Why did it help humanity? And even more interestingly, why did it stay and fight the darkness against Earth when we know that the Traveler has abandoned other alien species before? For those that don't know, the Elixni, also referred to as the Fallen, are a common enemy and now sometimes friend we meet in-game. But this species of aliens actually met the Traveler before humanity, and just like us, was also given a massive technological boost. But when the darkness came for them, instead of defending them like it did humanity, the Traveler instead abandoned the Elixni and ran away, allowing them to suffer at the peril of the darkness. This is why the Elixni in-game hate the Traveler so much, but it makes us wonder why the Traveler actually decided to save humanity instead. Is there some kind of master plan we aren't yet aware of? Did the Traveler see something in us it hadn't seen in many other species before? After all, even the Hive, another common alien enemy species in-game, millions of years ago, at the time called the Proto-Hive, met the Traveler, but instead was deceived and tricked by the Witness into going into the worm gods on their planet, which was actually the darkness, to consume the worms that turned their species into an evil onslaught of death. So the Traveler and its power of light and the darkness that opposes it have seemingly been in some sort of battle now for an unimaginable amount of time, and have been involved somehow with every friendly or non-friendly species we meet. What exactly is the Traveler's end goal though? Some in the community as of late actually have begun to speculate that the Traveler in fact may not be a force for good after all. In fact, in the Witch Queen expansion, we even start to unlock the power of the darkness for ourselves as well, and some of our enemies begin to use the light in order to do harm to the galaxy. So could it be that the Traveler and the darkness are not as black and white as we originally thought? Could it be that it's actually more of a yin and yang situation where no one is actually good and evil? And even more so, what actually is the Traveler? How did it get all of this advanced technological prowess that it bestowed upon humanity? Is the Traveler itself some sort of higher consciousness being controlled elsewhere? Some in the Destiny community have even begun to wonder if the Traveler could be the famed sci-fi concept of a Dyson sphere, coming to our solar system to harness all the power from our sun, after which it would leave us to die, just like the Elixni. And these questions only get much weirder when we factor in the super intelligent human artificial intelligence Rasputin and what he has to say on the matter, something we will touch on a lot more later on this list. Either way though, the catalyst for the entire world of Destiny as we know it today is most likely its biggest mystery, a giant sphere hovering over our planet whose intentions we still not are completely aware of, and whose power we truly do not understand. My guess is that something a lot more sinister is at play than we could ever imagine, and something is going to happen with this massive Planet X. And luckily, the next two expansions, Lightfall and the Final Shape, are sure to shed more light on this grand conspiracy, so that one day, hopefully, we can all better understand one of Destiny's biggest questions. The Scorn are potentially one of the most terrifying enemies in the entirety of Destiny. Spawned by the darkness itself from the corpses of fallen Elixni, these monstrosities of pure horror are known for their high aggression and lack of free will. For almost the entire time we have been fighting them in-game, they have been thought of as mindless husks devoid of thought and emotion, that simply, like feral animals, are consumed with the bloodshed of all in front of them. But could it be that the Scorn are evolving? In Destiny 2's Season of the Lost, there was a Shattered Realm event where if the player was paying close attention and watching their step, they were actually able to stumble upon a very peculiar scene. Hidden away in a back room of sorts is a fight club, where the Scorn can be seen huddled around in a circle, cheering on and watching two of their compatriots battle to the death. This is a very concerning revelation because it shows that the Scorn are seemingly beginning to form a sort of culture and brotherhood beyond just pure instincts. Could it be that these lifeless monsters are at an early stage of developing a true culture and identity? It's hard to say because the Scorn on the Glycon still seem very dumb after being killed and revived repeatedly, and only the Scorn we encounter on the shore actually show characteristics of having any sort of higher intelligence. Regardless though, something is beginning to happen with the Scorn that almost no player would have expected, and many don't know about, where one of the most common enemies in the game may be on the verge of becoming something much more terrifying. After all, the only thing worse than a strong enemy is a smart one. Even more horrifying too, if this weird culture of ritualistic fighting and sacrifice is anything to go by, the Scorn may actually be creating a crucible of sorts to practice killing one another to make themselves stronger, just like the Hive was known to do under their feared leader, Kelgaroth. At the end of the day though, this small event makes it pretty clear that at least for the Scorn, there's a lot more than meets the eye. We already know that the ghosts in Destiny play an important role in spreading the ideals of the light and the traveler. They fly around Earth and resurrect fallen individuals and bring them back as light bearers or guardians that fight on behalf of the light against the encroaching darkness. And while it's well known that guardians can resurrect more than just human beings, as we see from some fallen Elixni that have been revived and form a bond with guardians of their own, what a lot of people might not know is that ghosts have revived more than just recently deceased humans. The best example of this, and also the oldest living guardian on record, is a woman known as Senaret. We learn about her in a data entry we can find addressed to Ikora Ray, where Senaret says, "I am a low-power guardian, very big fanatic of your work as Warlock Caravan Guard. Excuse any male tropisms I have raised without knowledge of modern language or devices due to some deficit or otherwise agreeable host. Archaeologists tell me I am female Kadan, recovered from a strata of a Mesolaic battle site at Jebel Sabaha in Egypt, and I may be up to 13,000 years old. Perhaps this has caused great stress in the process of my resurrection." Further entries go on to show discussions between Ikora and Senaret about the nature of darkness and light itself, where our 13,000-year-old guardian has some very interesting insights about how the light is much more calm than the darkness that speaks so much, thus leading many people to become bored when compared to its talkative and fun dark antagonist. The entries shed a lot of light not only on the nature of the Destiny universe itself, but start to make us ask some bewildering questions, like who else have the ghosts revived? Could ghosts potentially revive some even more ancient humans or other alien species that could give us further clues into the biggest mysteries in the entire Destiny universe? And if they have, where are these other old relics of the past living and hiding? Whether or not this ever turns out to be the case, the peculiar happenstance of Senaret casts a door wide open for some awesome and memorable sci-fi stories of long-lost civilizations and humanity's past long forgotten. Sadly though, from what we can tell from all the lore entries and moments in game, Ghosts need to find part of the host's body to actually spawn and to start the original resurrection process. Maybe if we want any chance at reviving a creature millions of years old, we're going to have to find a still intact corpse first. The Witness is perhaps the most enigmatic and perplexing mystery that the world of Destiny has ever seen. And lucky for us, many of these mysteries are about to be potentially answered in the upcoming Destiny Lightfall and Final Shape expansions, which will conclude the first major saga in the Destiny universe of the light versus the dark. We first saw the Witness in a final cutscene in the Witch Queen expansion, where the entity can be seen walking in a throne room with a sea of imposing ships behind them.
The children of soul cry out for salvation. You promise them life, but deliver only death, as you have for so many before. Enough. Enough death. Enough life. You have no pieces left to place. The game is over. Do not be afraid. Your pale heart holds the key. This time, there is no escape.
It's in this cutscene that we learn that the Witness is some sort of vessel for the darkness that is hell-bent on finding and destroying the Traveler. Because you see, the Witness sees the Traveler, and by extension the spreading of the light, as a problem for the galaxy. The Witness's true goal, as far as we can tell from hundreds of pages of lore documents, is to escape from the mundane prison that is light and dark, and bring on a new and final shape. This is especially interesting considering we know that the final expansion of this storyline in Destiny is called the Final Shape, and it implies that the Witness is about to bring on some sort of downfall or final showdown between the darkness and the light. But why would the Witness want this? We may get an idea when we first encounter the figure in the Black Garden, where the Witness comes to us as a mirror image of our Guardian and promises us salvation. So the Witness is neither a friend or foe, but rather a potential next step to freedom? We also see some logs from Callus aboard his ship where he has visions of the Black Fleet, which is led by the Witness. Callus exclaims how the fleet swallows all that it comes into contact with, enveloping not only the darkness, but the light as well, leaving nothing but an endless void of blank ephemeral space. So it seems the Witness has a larger goal than we originally thought. The being wants to break free from the shackles that bind the universe together, and through that fire create a salvation where neither the light or the Traveler or the horrors of the darkness can have any sway on our destiny. However, it also seems that the Witness has been corrupted by the darkness in some way as well, as we know from Savathûn that she was originally tricked by the Witness to obtain a worm from the worm gods for the Hive's survival, because she and the Hive were told that the Traveler above them and the light was a force for evil, and that they needed to find darkness underground instead.
These frail siblings will soon be claimed by the light. Unless we claim them first, we will tell the most cunning sibling of Cataclysm, the prophecy of great loss. We will feed her fear, her pride. We will say, young Sithona, the end is coming. A great cataclysm. A god wave. In the sky, there is only death. But salvation lies in the deep. Lead your sisters down. Your coming will spare their short lives. And you will be reborn, the Witch Queen. Savathûn.
But who exactly is the Witness anyways? Well, it's been strongly implied by the Destiny team so far that the Witness isn't actually any one entity, but rather an amalgamation of many. We can see that in cutscenes with the Witness what looks to be many faces extending from their head, and this clue along with countless journal entries heavily imply that the Witness is almost similar to the Nine, something we'll talk about later on this list, and is a formation of many sets of beings and consciousness to form one being known as the Witness. One journal entry about a run-in with the Witness even states the following: "Then saw upon the horizon a wave, and the wave was God, and it approached me, saying, We are as one, you and I. We are gathering of the waters. Gather unto me as they have gathered unto you. We will be as one. The aphids screamed and begged me for salvation, but I was not of them. I was of the wave." The Witness may be a combination of all beings and thoughts that it has come into contact with. A scary thought for sure. And as to that mysterious Black Fleet, well, it may be home to an entirely new race of enemies we are about to fight in the final 2 expansions. After all, there is a very old piece of Destiny concept art where there was a so-called 5th race of baddies which we have yet to see in game. And lo and behold, on that concept art is a sketch of triangular ships and a weird entity that look just like the Witness and the Black Fleet. So clearly the Witness is about to be a catalyst that sets off the final moments of the now almost decade-long first saga of Destiny and its story. But as to what will actually happen, it's anyone's guess. To me, all of the recent lore and expansions have been laying the groundwork that the Traveler and Light may not be good after all, and that the Dark and Light are more of a yin and yang and less good and evil. So maybe the Witness is on to something, but has been consumed by the darkness and lost their way. And maybe it will be the job of us as the Guardians to once again restore balance to the universe and stop the bloodshed, but without casting us into an ephemeral hell of nothingness. Whatever it turns out to be though, there truly has never been a more interesting time and moment to step into Destiny lore, as years of hard work and build-up are about to come to fruition, and I can't wait. And if you're watching this video years later after the saga has ended, hopefully it lived up to everything it could be in this moment here. While Destiny's main narrative focuses on the everlasting struggle between the light and the dark, between the Traveler and the darkness, there are so many other major and interesting lore plots that most people don't know about. And potentially the one that could have the most drastic effects on the universe is that of Siva. Siva in Destiny is a plague-looking swarm of black matter that is actually made up of millions of small nanotech bots that can quickly overwhelm their adversaries and feed off their life force. In fact, it's probably the Siva itself that is what was responsible during the golden age of humanity to build massive cities and ships so quickly. And that's because the swarm of Siva itself is actually able to build things by harnessing matter around them, synthetic and organic alike. And while its origins likely stem somewhat from the Traveler and research at Clovis Bray, the best way we know of Siva in-game is actually the Iron Lords. For those that don't know, the Iron Lords were actually a band of guardians that after the fall, when the Traveler went dormant, were hell-bent on standing up against rogue guardians who, after receiving their power, tried to subjugate humanity instead of protecting them. The Iron Lords were known for being fierce fighters who stood up for what was right, but a horrific incident known as the Siva Crisis is what cast some of them into their demise. Because in the Plaguelands near the Cosmodrome, a band of Iron Lords led by Fellwinter at one point traveled to a Siva replication complex where they intended to meet with Rasputin, an ancient and powerful human artificial superintelligence. But upon seeing that they were trying to gain power from Siva for their gain, Rasputin unleashed a massive horde of the plague onto the Iron Lords, killing them all. This also resulted in an entire sect of Fallen trying to become one with the Siva, gaining its power and losing their minds in the process. So it's pretty clear that Siva is a very powerful and godly tool that many different AI try to use at their disposal. But the question of what it actually is the most fascinating part. For starters, we know Siva isn't actually a magic spell or plague, but rather nanotech. But from some grimoire entries in-game, it also seems that this tech is somewhat sentient itself. In fact, in one log from a Lost Colony ship, we can see that the AI on board was seemingly dealing with pushback from the Siva itself. I can feel the mites buzzing, pushing against my submind. They try to steal fragments of my memory, but I do not let them. They have no will, but they want to be. I exert electronic will, pushing, shaping, forcing stasis on perpetual motion. They are quiet then, but I can still sense them. Where once my cargo holds were full of tools, weapons, and material, now they hold barely contained possibilities. New worlds will be built from these tiny mites. weapons and cities and ships created by thought and science. I fear my will is not strong enough to shape these worlds. Only the tyrant can do that. But he will not be a part of my journey. Even his reach has limits, and we will now be 9 billion miles away. I whisper my consort to the tyrant in tiny magnetic bursts. He does not listen. The tyrant says take the Siva, and so I take the Siva. The tyrant says go to the stars, and so I go to the stars. So could it be that the Siva itself actually has a mind of its own as well? We know it was originally created in some part due to humanity's brightest minds shrouded in mystery along with the Traveler and other figures. But as to what is really going on behind these tiny nanobots, it's extremely hard to say. Based on that Grimoire log though, personally, I wonder if Rasputin could be behind all of this, being the tyrant that this ship's AI is trying to contact. Potentially Rasputin has gained control of this unbelievably powerful nanotechnology that was originally harnessed by human scientists through the help of their studies on the Traveler, and is now using it in an attempt to control all other artificial intelligence in the galaxy, as well as killing any organic foes need be. And even furthermore, could Siva itself be some sort of conjuration of the darkness and energy it inhibits? Could this mean that the Traveler and its mysterious past with the darkness are hiding a lot more than meets the eye? While Siva doesn't play a massive role in every expansion or story beat in Destiny, it certainly is one of the most interesting and thought-provoking side stories in the entire saga. In Destiny, during the golden age of humanity after the Traveler arrived, many new technologies and discoveries were made that helped push humanity into the most prosperous time in their history. And at the center of these research endeavors were the Clovis Bray facilities. Located in the Meridian Bay, Mars, Chicago, and Russia, these facilities were massive and state-of-the-art buildings that delved into the biggest mysteries in the Destiny universe. This included things like interplanetary defense, artificial intelligence, research on the Traveler, and even the creation of new technology like Siva, transmission augmentation, and even the Exos. And as with all massive research organizations in video games, not everything that Clovis Bray did was ethical. For example, Exos, which are actually one of the playable races in Destiny, were designed with the intention of uploading human consciousness into a robotic body in order to give us immortality. But in order to reach this goal, many researchers at Clovis Bray performed heinous experiments on man and machine alike, torturing subjects into submission, and trapping them inside early prototype exoskeletons that thrust their minds into madness, and many times would result in exploding stomachs and limbs. In some cases, Clovis Bray researchers even injected test subjects with radiolarian fluid, which is Vex mind fluid which slowly and painfully turns an organism into a Vex drone. Which, for those of you that don't know, is a machine-like race that is another main bad guy that we fight in the games. Clovis Bray were also the main researchers behind the creation of Siva, which, as we already know, is one of the most powerful and dangerous nanotechnologies in the universe, and in the wrong hands could spell doom for humanity. But potentially one of the most interesting things that the Clovis Bray researchers worked on was something with their leader Clovis himself, diving into Vex origins and meaning. After secretly stealing Vex research units from the Ishtar Collective, another group we'll talk about later on this list, Clovis and his team started work on creating a portal that would take them to a Forge Star, which was a faraway and top-secret Vex stronghold which actually turned out to be a Dyson sphere. Many of the findings the researchers made on the Vex were extremely mysterious and convoluted, and we only have small lore tidbits to go off of regarding what the Vex worlds and megastructures were like through the portal and the Star Forge. Luckily for us though, another research group did even more research on the Vex and made some crazy revelations, which we'll talk about more later on this list. But overall, what made Clovis Bray and the research facilities he founded so interesting though, was their main goal of reaching immortality. While they achieved many scientific breakthroughs, some good and some horrific, their main goal of living forever is one we have seen many scientists or explorers in our real world try to achieve, a holy grail of sorts. And seeing how hellbent an organization was on achieving this at any cost is a scary realization for sure, and it makes us wonder what else Clovis Bray has worked on or discovered that we still don't know about.